King visibly left his prepared text in the 11th minute of I Have a Dream and spoke the rest of it without his notes. Anaphora is a repetition of a phrase at the beginning of sentences, and it's a rhetorical tool that King used really well. He said, "Now is the time," 4 times. And he said, he used the phrase, "I have a dream," not "I have a reverie." What do you think is the value of this device? Have you had a chance to try it out? And if you haven't, would you like to do so in the future using this repetitive at the beginning of phrase theme? Let's see, Pam. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Madam Table Topics person. I'm not doing this with reverie, by the way. I do like the device that Martin Luther King used, and a lot of folks, different people who give speeches and who are more poetic tend to use this device. I've used it myself in different times, and one time that I remember is that a dear friend of mine that I worked with had passed away, and I had to get up and give a eulogy, and I kept prefacing it by saying, because the whole church was filled with people, and every one of us felt that we were his best friend. He had that ability with people to make you feel so special that everyone felt that they were Dan's best friend. So I used it in a way where I kept prefacing all of my different statements by saying, I've only had the privilege of knowing Dan for 5 years, but, and I would go into some of his attributes. I used it again. I only had the privilege of using Dan for 5 years, but I know that he made a heck of a loaf of bread. And what had happened was that because I was a copywriter, I was somewhat nervous that that would seem to be an disingenuous device for delivering words that maybe would be perceived as too cute, too contrived, too manipulative. But instead, people came up to me afterwards, and they said that they kept thinking to themselves, although I've only had the privilege of knowing Dan for 15 years, although I've only had the privilege of knowing Dan for 40 years. And it brought home to them more meaning.